Well, welcome to High School 101. My name is Lori Brooks, and I'm the Assistant Director of School Counseling Services for the district. But I've been in the district 24 years, but I spent 19 years as a high school teacher, counselor, and director of counseling before I moved down to the district office. And now I help to oversee counseling services district-wide. So tonight we're going to talk about the transition into high school, but I also realize that a lot of parents that are here may not have an 8th grader going into 9th grade. You may already have a high school student in high school. So this presentation is going to be geared towards any student who has, who's in any year of high school, okay? But I'm going to talk a little bit too about transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, because beginning with the end in mind and getting off on the right foot is extremely important. And you know, our philosophy too, and mine especially as a counselor, is we are all playing on Team Kid. You have your teachers, your counselors, your administrators, your parents, and the student. And the most important person, other than that child, is the parent, because you know your child best. We can help provide options, we can guide, but when I had mom or dad or a guardian in the room, and that child lives and breathes with you every day, you know your kid. So your input is so important. And in high school, it's this kind of releasing of your student, but you're trusting and verifying at the same time. And that can be like walking a tightrope. So I get that, and let's go ahead and just get started. And so as kids transition from middle to high school, a lot of times we think, you know, what's the difference? They're changing classes every period, they've got multiple subjects, and you know, but the hallways are noisy, they're hectic. Middle school and high school, kind of the same. All kids are changing classes at the same time. The class schedule in high school is even more arduous than it was in middle school though. But 9th grade is that year that every grade suddenly counts. And it's the year of the permanent record. And that's the big difference is, yes, we have credits in middle school, but we have kids that you can get D's and you're promoted. That's the state statute, you have to pass. In high school, you have some other things going on. Like a D is not going to get you out of high school. It'll get you credit, but it's not going to get you another benchmark that gives you a standard diploma. And we'll get into that. So despite the challenges, most kids and parents manage to make the transition with just a few speed bumps rather than kind of a crisis situation. So we're trying to shoot for a few hiccups as you transition your child into high school, and then just really monitoring them as they go. There's a book called High School 101, the Freshman Survival Guide, and Dawn Burnett is a former teacher. She's the author of this book, and I think this quote spoke volumes to me in reading this book as an educator. And you know, the middle school to high school transition is a transition that prepares children well for the leap from high school to the post-secondary world, but also into life. And if we can get kids off on the right foot in grade 9, typically that particular pathway continues for them. And so that's where that transition piece is important. So our session outcomes tonight will be for parents to become more familiar with graduation requirements, develop an understanding of student choices, because there are a lot of them in high school, but also the value of blending some of those choices together, because it's not always an all or nothing. There's a lot of opportunity for students. And then understanding the tools available to students and parents to work as a team towards achieving the high school diploma, and then strategies to help support your student. One of the takeaways from tonight, and we're actually going to have probably a few more minutes than the other sessions, is this handout, because I'm a big believer in I want to read it again, and I want to read it again. So I gave you in this handout the 15-16 graduation requirements, which we'll dig into in a few minutes. The most important piece besides that are the resource sheets we created for an 8th grader transitioning to 9th, if you want to share this with your student, if they're transitioning into high school. And then we have helping your child succeed in high school. So it takes some of the slide information and it puts it into a takeaway for you. And then the electronic tools that the district provides and parents find valuable. There are a couple of websites on this handout that are national websites, but we start with what do we have locally for you, and then what other resources do we have for you on a national level to help your students. One of those resources is called Khan Academy, and the high schools are really focusing students on that because it has tutoring sessions for different subject areas. When you go to leeschools.net, one of the most important buttons on this website, and for parents, but also we use it a lot because it's a one-stop shop. If I'm directing a parent through something, I'm going to go to leeschools.net and go right down here to the bottom left parent portal. And on the parent portal is a lot of the information that parents frequently need access to, and they can pull up all in one spot. And right here on the right-hand side is the graduation requirements section. And that takes you to the academic advising and graduation requirement handouts. Now these are provided by the Department of Education, and they do a really good job of it, so we really don't focus on reinventing the wheel. We used to develop our own, and they came up with these flyers. And your graduation requirements for your child, and this is the critical piece, it's based on the year they enter grade 9. So it's just like when you had a college catalog year, it's the year you were a freshman in college. It's the same for high school. The year you enter grade 9 drives your graduation requirements. Even if you graduate a year ahead of schedule, the year you were a freshman is the requirement set that you're under. So I'm going to open up, and I also included in your handout, the 15-16 freshman requirements, because they're remaining the same for 16-17. We just don't have the handout yet from the Department of Education, but they're the exact same requirements. So rather than reading a handout to you, what I'm going to highlight for you is the big three, and those are required credits, minimum grade point average, and required assessments. Okay, so for a standard diploma, they're very specific on the right-hand side of all the different credits kids need to do, and then they provide you some other options to fulfill those credits in every category. Their minimum unweighted grade point average must be a 2.0, which is a C average, which is why if a student gets all Ds throughout high school, they could earn their credits and not get a standard diploma. So the benchmark for grades in high school is a 2.0 unweighted, so a C average, and then the required assessments. So I'm going to go back to our slide, and there are the big three: required credits, grade point average, required assessments, and those are all detailed on that handout. So as students start to think about high school and they're transitioning, or they're going from 9th to 10th grade, you know they're entering that time, or they may have already done it if they're older students, of course selection. If they're 9th grade next year, a lot of your discussion has probably involved, are we going to look at any of the programs that schools have to offer? And I'm sure, what was it, this week, last week, you were talking about what school did they get. So begin with the end in mind is extremely important because there are a lot of options. One of the things I'd like to submit to you from years as a teacher and then a counselor at the high school level is really, it's all about balance. And so when you look at, does rigor matter? Yes. Does balance matter? Sure, it all matters. But we're asking incoming freshmen to think beyond 4 years, and that's difficult for a lot of kids. I don't know, kids change their major if they're going to college multiple times. Many of them do. And I want to clearly communicate to you that our focus in the schools, especially from the counseling perspective, is not all kids are college bound. They are all post-secondary bound. And post-secondary can be an apprenticeship. It can be technical college, our local technical schools who are going anywhere in-state or out-of-state to a technical program. It can be going to a state college like FSW, and it can be a state university. All students are different. And so we want to help them understand all of their opportunities, but that's where you also start saying to a student, we don't say to them, are you going to college after high school? We say, what are your plans after high school? And then when they say, I think I might want to be a radiology tech, or I might want to do this or that, we say, okay, well, let's look at what type of rigor do you need? Where are your strengths academically, and do you want to take advanced courses that support those strengths? Where do you, I don't want to say struggle, but where are some of your courses where you have to work harder to feel like you're getting the grades that you want to earn in those courses? That might be not as rigorous of a choice, and that's where you as a parent really come in. Because, and also, are they involved in after-school clubs activities or competitive dance? Whatever it is, rigor matters, but balance is just as important. And in addition, the schedule your child carries determines the amount of homework that they'll have each night. And then we have to keep in mind it can also determine the post-secondary opportunities. So if you have a student that clearly articulates their goal, then you know that working with the school, we're going to help them select opportunities that will get them where they want to go or be most prepared for that. We also know that kids change goals, and that's okay. So planning for all of the things that you and your child feel we need to plan for are the most important pieces to understanding, beginning with the end in mind, and choosing those programs and courses to suit those needs. So grades versus rigor is another important part. You'll hear experts talk about if you take all regular level classes and ace every one of them, are you as competitive as a student that stretches themselves, challenges themselves, and may take an advanced course and earn a B? Okay, so it's important to understand the rigor versus the grades. Rigor matters because in the greater context of considerations for post-secondary, no matter what level, they're going to look at the rigor first and the grade within the context of that rigor. How did the student perform in a higher level environment, and did they stretch their skill set? We also have to look for student choices regarding choosing to get involved and join clubs, and how that also, the schedule that they select and their after-school activities complement each other, and then making responsible choices. So there's a lot to think about, but like I said earlier, we're all playing on Team Kid, and your voice is so important because you know your child best. And so we've got all those team players trying to help make some selections. One of the things that we like also to remind students is with incoming freshmen, we'll say like everything matters, but we're trying to balance helping them understand without freaking them out at the same time that yes, everything matters, but it's all about you can do do-overs. You know, we want to catch you before you fall, but you will have some bumps. And if you grow from them and you seek the adults in your life, that's the most important thing you can do is ask for help. So before I go into how parents can help students, I would love to introduce you to one of our students in Lee County Schools who's finishing her freshman year this year, and her mom, because I think they're going to cover a lot of these slides to say Ariana Rodriguez is here to talk to us about her experiences through her freshman year, and also her mom, Mary Lynn Rodriguez, is going to talk about her aha moments as a parent of a freshman. So thank you for being here, and feel free to share.
Good evening. When beginning the transition of middle school to high school, I feel that parental guidance is valued tremendously by the student. Parental guidance in developing the type of student that your student is, and providing the appropriate support and offering the correct resources is of utmost importance for them in the present and also benefits them in the future. Understanding the type of student that your student is very important, because in middle school they may have had straight A's the whole entire time and completed all of their work to the best of their ability, but in high school that can change. In high school the curriculum is a lot harder and the workload is a lot more than it was in middle school. This gives them the opportunity to rise to the occasion and to be the best that they can be, but with the workload, it also can make them fall back a little bit more and not want to try as hard because they feel like it's just too much for them. I feel that monitoring your students' grades and making sure that they're doing well, especially at the beginning of the year, is very beneficial to them, because if you see them suffering in some of their classes, you can push them a little bit more to help them be at the level that you want them to be and the level that you know they can be at. Also, understanding the curriculum in high school is so important, because the curriculum helps you to do your best on the end of course exams and on the various tests that high school has. These tests impact your future, and one thing that I love about high school is that it applies to your whole entire life, and it really starts to cross paths with like other things that you just do on a daily basis. Also, having the appropriate support from parents is very important. I feel that in support there's two categories, push and pull. Pushing is like pushing your student, to be the best that you know they can be and be amazing. And pull is when you see them suffering and they want to take on more, but you know that they just can't, and that eventually it'll go downhill and it won't be what's best for them. Helping them to refrain from doing that and to just stay on the correct track. Lastly, I feel that giving them the correct resources is important. These resources include time and energy, because clubs and extracurricular activities really help the student to be well-rounded and it helps colleges to look at them in a different light. So giving them time and energy and helping them to get enough sleep and to be the best version of them that they can be really helps them throughout their high school career. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to piggyback on her push and pull. As a mom, I kind of did that, the push and pull. I sat back and let her, as her freshman year began, and watched her grades, looked at, went on the websites of their school, seeing activities that were involved, even sports activities, football games, things that go to everything, and just kind of paid attention to all of that. Looked at her grades, listened to the parent link phone messages that would get, and just be really in tune with everything, but then allowed her to take those steps forward and come to me and tell me about what she's doing or how she's doing. If there was a grade that maybe I questioned or a homework assignment, what kind of happened with this one, I would go to her and ask her. And then if she questioned or wasn't sure, well, who do you need to go to? Go speak with your teacher. Or do you need to go speak with your school counselor? I encouraged her as a student to go take those steps, become more independent, and take charge of not only her grades, but her high school career. And just slowly sat there. But then when it came to a point where maybe I've let her spread her wings a little bit, but then I felt, you know what, that's my time maybe to step in as a parent, because she's done what she can on her own and I need to help her, then maybe I might have stepped in there and said, maybe we need to talk, maybe I need to meet with you and your school counselor, or meet with you and your teacher, depending on what the situation may be. So I was there as a cheerleader in the background, helping her and kind of encouraging her, but then if I needed as a parent, I stepped up and I made that phone call. In elementary, middle school, we have more of a tendency as parents to pick up the phone or send an email and say, hey, I heard about this. Is there really, are you guys really having a party tomorrow? Can I bring anything? Can we send anything? Well, this is more me telling her, for instance, I got a parent link saying she needed to bring licorice the next day because they're going to do DNA models out of licorice. So she hadn't told me that yet, but yet I needed to take it the next day. I said, Ariana, is there something your biology teacher might have told you? Oh yes, I need to bring licorice. So it was giving her the opportunity first to come to me and tell me without, it was a timely manner that I didn't take care of. But that's just a small, silly kind of example of how I can allow her to take those steps forward. So they're great. So like I said, the website, checking the website and just being on top of that, going to Lee School's parent portal, the parent links, and just if you get the message, listening to those messages. I know sometimes we're like, there's a message there, we might forget to check it, but really being in tune, because it could be something that's the next day or in a couple days the student needs. And then just encouraging your student to go see their school counselors, to go talk to their teachers if they have a question, instead of being necessarily having them come to us and us trying to find the answer. So, thank you.
Thank you. So we heard Ariana and Mary Lynn Rodriguez talking about doing that dance, the Trust But Verify dance, the teaching self-advocacy and promoting that, but sometimes knowing when it's time to just make that call as a parent and say, just check in. Is this really, what we're doing? So we have a couple more minutes, and I'd love to take some questions. So I want to just briefly touch on a couple of things. One was really understanding the graduation requirements, and even at semester, when those semester credits are done and you get that semester report card, checking off English 1, semester 1, we passed it, and checking off those as you go, calendaring the interim dates and the report card dates so they can't escape notice. That happened a lot in high school, where we'd send out the interim dates and we'd send out the parent link, but we're all busy and parents are working, and then all of a sudden the mid-quarter interim date slid by. The parent would check parent link and say, how did my kid get 3 zeros all in 1 week? And ooh, interims were last week. Where's your interim? It happens, and we all know that there were times we were tempted. I'll bet you kids nowadays don't love the amount of communication we can have. But encouraging positive school behaviors, setting expectations for achievement and attainment, and one of the critical pieces is just knowing that you're pushing your child to do the best they can do. If you do your best, and it's a B or a C, but you did your best, you turned in every assignment, you used your teacher's after-school tutoring time, there's value in kids doing their best, and it doesn't have to mean it's a straight A. And then also, if you're already doing this in middle school, your child has good organization skills, effective study habits, and good attendance, the study habits one may need to be tweaked for high school because things are shifting. And the rigor is a little bit different or a lot different depending. And so that's one that we notice that middle to high school parents work on tweaking with their child. And the parent participation, not only online monitoring, but regular check-ins. Get eyeball to eyeball with the counselor. We never mind parents calling us and saying, I want to schedule a meeting. I never mind that.
Speakers at this time, if you
and communication is huge. And then my last slide was really just the resources that that were mentioned already, and they're on this sheet. They're all under the parent portal. After the last session, I had a dad say, I can't log into my parent link account, and we were able to go on the parent portal and look at the directions and make sure that he knew exactly how to set that up. So lots of helpful information there. I know we're transitioning. Do you have any quick questions? And you'll have another opportunity in the boardroom. Yes, ma'am.
I have an 8th grade in high school.
Yep.
She is an ESC student. What should be the first step I should go to? Who should I be contacting to ensure that this is going to be a smooth transition?
Definitely the school counselor. The question is with a student who has an IEP and just really making sure that that support is there, who should I contact? I'd say the first step is the school counselor for certain. And then guys, right before school starts, we always have that open house. That's where you can go with your student and they actually get their schedule before school starts, and you go classroom to classroom and they get a feel for where those courses are, those classes. That's huge too.